the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. I'm looking very forward to the Artemis II launch. I'm very, very looking forward to it. I'm not too worried about the heat shield issue, the risk. There's risks associated with all these launches, but I'm very, very excited to see NASA get back into the game. I was very upset back in 2013, I think it was, when Obama put NASA in charge of researching Islamic contributions to science as one of their main objectives. And it was clearly a move away from advanced human conditions back towards the primitive. And I'm aware, and I know there's a lot of people that I know that look at NASA and they say, NASA was started with occult practices with L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons, and parts of the moon are named after Jack Parsons, and the moon never happened. It was a fake in order to beat the Soviet Union. They filmed it in a studio out in California. I get where everybody's at. I tend to think that I believe a lot of what the astronauts that have been to the moon have said about UFOs and characters already being on the moon, presence already occupied there. I would also say that the advancement towards full disclosure is upon us. I don't think the Spielberg movie coming out in the summer of 2026 is an accident. I think he's the right creative person to advance the dialogue. Trump is the right president to advance that narrative, because we're going to space. There's nothing with the private enterprise and with space, what SpaceX is doing, and now this Artemis, the Artemis II, take 4 astronauts, circulate around the moon and return, and You've got to show that you can get people under life support conditions. That's why it's got to be people alive. They've done it with Artemis I. They actually did it automated, and it splashed down the Pacific Ocean. Everything is fine. Heat shields took a lot of damage, and there's a lot of debate about those heat shields or whether or not they should be the big panels. And then once they get compromised, and big chunks fly off, versus lots of little ones where if they compromise, then we have some mitigation there for risk. I think the risk is very minimal, and I just want to see it go. And we'll talk about radial resolution, because that's the key here. NASA's been slow as molasses for a long time. They were slow even in the Apollo days. SpaceX is much faster, and really that's why SpaceX had to pull away from a lot of the projects on Mars to get involved, so they can partner up with NASA and get this thing done. And when you say get this thing done, it means you got to be on the moon. We need assembly plants on the moon. I want to go there and stay at a hotel. I want to do that in a couple of years. And when I say a couple of years, I mean 5 to 10 years. I want to be on the moon, vacation with my wife, and just seeing that perspective. So it needs to happen, and we're on a trajectory for it to happen. A lot of manufacturing, huge. I've talked about it for years, and now that Trump's in office, he's not going to waste the opportunity. NASA's not going to waste the opportunity to do it. You got to get to space. You got to get there before China does. Right now, the threat is that China's moving and pushing to get there, and you don't want them to beat you. We've got to control the moon, and we have to control Mars. We need to control the solar system. We have all this great stuff, but we've been mired under regulatory burdens that have been ostentatiously destructive. So I have a great passion for aerospace. I'm very involved in aerospace, as many know me personally know. I play a role and I like playing a role in it because I'm very passionate about where it's going. I like that there's been great things in aerospace that have been part of the past, but I'm very much interested in the future. And this Artemis II launch is important because you launch the 4 people around the moon, bring them back, show that the heat shields can hold up, that people can survive a couple days, 10 days or so in a capsule together, in this capsule, and test the systems, see what works, what doesn't work. Don't put a lot of extra complications, because the next one is a landing on the moon. So all your life systems need to work, so you need to troubleshoot them now with the ability not to add the complications actually landing on the moon. You got to have people in the capsule to test the system. That's why it has to be live people. And that's why the risk is important. But in aerospace, here's the problem. Aerospace, traditionally, NASA has been mired with a lot of regulatory burden, just like Obama did when he was the president. He mired him down with a lot of bureaucracy, shut down the shuttle program. There was safety concerns have nearly halted any kind of space exploration. And for years we had, until SpaceX came along, we couldn't even get into space. We had to hitch a ride with Russia. And we would never be able to have any kind of statement against Russia and Ukraine if we were still hitching rides to get up to the International Space Station. So now we just go to SpaceX and Falcon takes them up. So that's great. That's the way you want it. But there's going to be a presence on the moon. The economies of the future are going to be dictated by a space economy, whether people like it or not. That's where it's headed. It's where the human race is headed. And my interest in space is I advocate all the time studying history on planet Earth. I'm very interested in archaeology and anthropology and knowing the truth about the human race. I'm talking about a lot more these days because I think context we're at that arrival point, and we're talking about, again, disclosure. Disclosure, what does that mean? And when you find out that everything didn't just happen on Earth, that there's life forms that have inhabited the solar system for millions and millions of years, it's going to rattle a lot of people's basic assumptions. Now, I'm saying that here because that's what I think. Based on what I know, and I read a lot, we read widely, that's what I think points a lot of mysteries that we have. They're mysteries because you're looking at one thing and the other thing is over here concealed from you. And we're getting close to that other thing being open, and then you can see the connection between the two. But when you observe one thing and it's connected to something hidden behind a curtain somewhere, of course, it's going to be a mystery. So a lot of mysteries get solved when you start looking at the bigger picture. And the only way to see the big picture is to get into space. So once you're on the moon, once you're on Mars, and once you're colonizing moons around Jupiter and other places, large asteroids in the asteroid belt that you can put a base on and start doing some work and manufacturing, and you start having ships flying all over the place, that's when things really that's when perspective changes a lot. And if a lot of people don't want that perspective to change, they like the way things have been, they like knowing, if there's a mystery out here, they at least like to know this thing. So that's fine for a lot of people. I want to know this, and then I want to know all the other things too. And the way you do that is you got to get out and do some archaeology. I want to get out into Mars. I want to see what's real, not real. I want to understand why Mars played such a role in the subconscious of all of our mythologies. That from early on, when there was no real reason for people to look at one of those stars in the sky and build a culture around it, or a civilization, or some sort of deity worship around it. It doesn't make sense why we would do that as human beings, left to our own devices. As we went from Neanderthals into humans, learning how to build a fire, and then learning how to roll a wheel, and then we looked up and said, "Oh, Mars! Let's build a whole mythology around Mars." There's some steps missing, and a lot of steps missing, and we need to understand what. And you'll understand it once you get to there. So my interest in all this, in Artemis II for perspective, is I just want to see what's out there. I want to see an economy flourish. I love aerospace. I'm not crazy about occult and occult references, and I'm not the goddess Artemis, the sister of Apollo. I don't care about any of that. I mean, I care about what people think and how they come to think it. Right now, I see a rocket on a stand that I want to see flying 4 people around the moon, and I want pictures, I want video, I want lifetime streaming in a modern context. There's no reason in the world we shouldn't have gone back to the moon sooner than we have. I think a lot of people have lost trust in everything in government, and they don't believe a thing, including that we landed on the moon. That was all staged. And I would say that you can see those items parked on the moon. I know Firefly. I've actually spoken to people at Firefly. They just landed a capsule on the moon, close to where some of that stuff is. So, we know those things are there, but it's about time we get there for real. We should have gone there a long time ago. But because we had a political wave off, for whatever reason, we were waved off working on the moon anymore, and we didn't go back. And we actually regressed under presidents like Obama over the years. And it took NASA a long time to get back on its feet. And I'm really looking forward to them getting back on their feet and SpaceX closing the gap on lead times and getting the engineers so they're not strung out on every little print revision on their drawings, and they're making fast, quick changes as they do at SpaceX so that NASA can meet up and get people on the surface of the moon 2027, 2028. Need to do it very quickly. Need to get there, and within that 10-year frame, I expect a hotel on the moon, and I want to be one of the people to go there. I want to go there. I want to be one of the first to go there. I want to see it for myself. I want to see that perspective because I like having my thoughts on lofty places. I like to go to the tops of mountains. I like to go to the tops of hills. I like to see things from high up. I like to pull back as far as I can pull back to see the big picture. I live in the big picture. That's where I'm happiest. And to pull back further, Mars would be a good place. I'd like to go travel to Mars and see that. But the moon would be a good perspective. And it's a pretty good vantage point. And I think that humanity will expand accordingly and properly once we break that barrier. And I'm happy to see it happen. And Artemis is one of the ways that we're going to get there quickly. And I can't wait. Rooting for Artemis II. Very excited to see. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. Go Artemis II, and see you later.
Thank you for listening.